calling this meeting to order at 7:05. And I have an adjustment to the agenda already. Somehow it got left off the agenda that we were going to discuss the proposal that was made last month about the annual meeting. So we will be discussing that in the agenda. That will come, let's do it after correspondence, I guess. Would be a good place to put that in. Okay, any other adjustments to the agenda? Okay. Public comment, would you like to comment again?
I'm just back to stick my nose in again about the Australian ballot for the budget vote. I think it's more fair that everybody gets to vote who wants to. I couldn't vote last time because when I arrived, if I was too late, I didn't even find a place to park. So I think there's a lot of elderly people that might want to vote on the budget, but they don't want to go out at night. And it starts at 7 o'clock in the night.
Okay. Any other public comment? Anybody online? I guess not. Okay. Could you speak up a little bit? The fan is making noise.
Interesting thing that we don't think about often is that some people would have to find a ride because they don't see well anyway.
Okay, thank you. Okay, approving the minutes from May. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Second, okay. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. I have no correspondence. I don't know if any came to the central office. I guess not. Okay, so we will go into, for the board comment, we will discuss the annual meeting. Anybody here have anything they wanted to say right off the bat? I do have something I was gonna say, but.
First, I just know that there's a town meeting committee really trying to get public engagement into our meetings, and they're working really hard on that. I wonder if there's a way we could partner with them to figure out the parking or could we adjust the timing so it's earlier? There could be other solutions to this as well to get more people
But
here.
someone's gonna get left out no matter what.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
This is true. Yeah, I think there's no perfect system
Peggy?
to it.
Having taught for many years in Berry City, it was very easy for people to come in who had never looked at the budget and either vote a straight yes or a straight no, not knowing what they were voting for. When I went in my own small town, and here, you go to the meeting and you hear the things so you actually know what you're voting on. And that to me makes a huge difference because quite frankly, the annual reports we send out don't say everything. They don't explain things. And as much as I like the idea of Australian ballot, it also, for me, when I was teaching, if the town voted no, then teachers were left in limbo. What's going to happen? Are we going to get riffed? Are we going to lose programs? What's going to happen? And each time it was voted, in this case, no, you just didn't know what was going to happen. And I like the idea of being able to leave a meeting and one way or another, because at the meeting, people can change the amount. I don't ever hear people doing that, but at the meeting, people can amend the budget and change it, either up or down. Yeah, so anyway, I like to have the meetings in person and the votes in person because I think the people are better educated if they come to the meetings than if they just.
But only 300 people.
You're right, and having been on the select board for several years, we would have pre-town meetings. You might have 10 people at the most come to a pre-town meeting.
And we did it for
And
the
at
school
school
too.
meetings, we have what, 2 or 3?
Yeah, we had a meeting here and we had a meeting in Bethel that were well publicized. We had the mailing that went out to every household. And yeah, we got maybe 2 or 3 people that actually came to the meeting to hear all about the budget.
Yeah.
That's really discouraging.
It is, it's very discouraging, and that's,
It is. I do the Forward Festival, and I've had a post out on Facebook for 2 months asking if anyone would like to help volunteer. We have 3 people that put that on. So people just aren't out there to go to meetings.
Yeah.
yeah.
The parking part really bothers me.
Yeah, that shouldn't be.
And this coming year, the meeting will be back here in Royalton, and I was going to ask if we could do what has happened for some other events here, have parking available at the law school and a bus available to transport people back and forth to the meeting, because I think parking is an even bigger problem here than it is in Bethel. And then in Bethel, the following year, I would ask if we could park in the big parking area that I still call it GW.
Well, I think a lot of people did.
Yeah,
I can't walk up that hill.
Right.
I have COPD, I just to walk from my car to here, if I don't go really slow, I'm out of breath.
Yeah.
So I can't be walking, and there's probably a lot of people that can't walk a distance,
mhm.
and plus it's March, it's dark.
I do like the idea what Julie was saying, that maybe we could adjust this. I mean, maybe we could combine it on the same day as town meeting. And each town has their town meeting in the morning. And, huh? Yeah, we used to do that. But I think when we merged, that became something that didn't make sense because Royalton, Bethel. But we could still go back to that and we could have town meeting, then have a 1 o'clock start time or a 2 o'clock start time for the school part of the meeting. That would probably accommodate a whole lot more people.
But you can only fit so many people in the buildings.
I think we've never come close to maxing out. I mean,
Because there's not enough places for people to park.
but if we took care of the parking part of it,
And
and
I've maxed out at concerts.
yeah, but how many people is
I'm
that?
sure you have.
We have.
Yeah.
I don't know,
God
and
forbid
I'm not
there's
gonna,
ever a fire when those.
yeah, I'm not gonna say during a recorded meeting, because I don't wanna get fire marshal to come.
But no,
Yeah.
I think that could work. But then again, there is a process. I don't think it should be up to 4 of us
I'd
to,
like to at least see it on the agenda for the next budget meeting.
oh, well,
Oh, you mean
We're not
at
going to
at
make
the
any-
next town, at the next annual
And
meeting?
even then, there's
Yeah.
only gonna be 300 people who are
Right,
gonna be
yeah.
allowed to make that decision.
Mhm.
but I think that the process is already in place for what can be done. Anybody can start a petition. That's the process for
Well,
changing
I
it.
know, and I've done petitions before. I don't have time to do a petition, and I was told that if I can get you guys to get it on the agenda for the budget, then I don't have to do a petition. So I'm asking if you will put it on the budget.
You're talking about for the annual meeting next year.
That's the only way we can do it.
Right.
It has to be on the budget for everyone to vote for.
Oh,
That's what I'm told. I mean, I've researched this. I
Yeah.
looked into what I had to do
okay.
to go forward.
Yeah, we can't change the meeting for this next year.
No.
But it can be on the agenda to be changed for the year after.
Okay.
And so whether it goes on by petition or whether we decide to put it on.
Mhm. But so this is an action step that we would have to vote on ourselves, not tonight because it hasn't been warned as a
Right,
vote.
right.
But we could take an action step. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, is it also virtually able to be watched?
The annual meeting, no. It has not been virtual because people would not be able to vote virtually.
Wouldn't that be like, kind of like the Australian vote could work for that if people if somebody wrote down all the names of the people who are joining virtually?
Oh, I don't know.
But I don't know how they would do a secret, an Australian ballot.
I don't know how it is.
Because it couldn't be.
It
private.
wouldn't be secret, right,
Right.
it wouldn't be private.
So could they, though, but could their names be written down if they were there virtually, but couldn't get to the building or in the building, and then they could do their own,
I see what you're saying, like, could they do some kind of absentee vote?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that would be something that could happen,
They could.
but that would be an interesting
I
thing
mean,
to
you
check
wouldn't
into.
have your answer right away,
Right,
but maybe the following day they could go to the town office or wherever to put their answer
Mhm.
I mean, I wasn't able to go to annual meeting this year because, because I was handicapped at the time, so I couldn't go. But part of that is I rely on the people I know who are going and value their judgment to do what I think is right. And that's the same thing with any of us who can't go. We have to rely on the people that are there to use their best judgment.
And encourage people to come.
Right, and encourage people to come.
Well, Michael and I are working on getting more people who give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's gonna help. If people know that they actually have a voice, that they don't have to go to a meeting that's at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday night or whatever night they have it on, I don't even remember anymore. I think there's a lot of people who just can't go out at night to do that.
And well, I know the informational meetings we had, those were
Available online.
virtual. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so people could go to the informational meetings. And again, as I said, there were a
Well, you
handful.
know what? I don't even know how to do that stuff. How many people do you think know how to do that virtual stuff?
Yeah.
A lot of elderly people, and those are the people that I spoke to that would like to see an Australian ballot.
I would really like to see us also, though, investigate this other idea of combining it with town meetings. Then it would be in the afternoon, people, would hopefully be at the town meeting, have lunch all together, and then,
There's a lot of people who work who can't take Tuesday off.
Yeah, I think we all agree that accessibility needs to be,
which is why it came to an evening thing.
but for me, when I moved here and started participating in that meeting, like, the ability to stand up and amend things if need be, ask questions, things you don't understand, and get the actual impact. I think a lot of opinions or votes are changed in that moment to better understand what is a very complicated budget to try to understand. Even on your own, if you have it print out and try to read it.
Yeah.
Without having experts there to kind of explain the nuance of it, it can be really hard to understand what can be changed, what can't be changed. And on an Australian ballot, in my opinion, it muddies that water a lot. Getting that information out to people and knowing they're getting it and understanding what they're voting on is a real challenge, not in person.
I know there
It's
were,
worth a discussion.
every year when we've been at the annual meeting, there have been people who have said afterwards, wow, I came in here thinking I was voting no, but after hearing the presentations and understanding what the numbers are all about, I realized, yeah, I'm voting yes. And I've heard that over and over again. And like Peggy said, if all you're doing is going into a checkbox, then you're not basing your vote on anything necessarily. I mean, it's one thing if
We're
it's,
already doing it on the people.
well, that's what
When
I
I
was
went
gonna say.
in to see those people, there was one choice. I didn't see the point of it.
Mhm. Well, I think that when you're voting for a person, it's something like, presidential. I mean, by the time you go into that voting booth, you know what the people you're voting for believe. If you're voting for president, vice
For that,
president,
but
et
not
cetera.
for school board. I had no idea who was running for
Yeah.
school board.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, but for the money type things, the budget stuff, you're not gonna walk into the booth and look at a number and know automatically, oh, what's this all about?
Well, I guess if you don't read the report, but I read the report.
Yeah. Well, any other discussion? Okay, I guess try to have it on the agenda. I made a note last time, I'm not sure why I got locked up, but we could adjust it anyways. But we can vote on this at the next meeting. And that has to be warned ahead of time, so I will absolutely make sure it makes it onto the agenda as an action step. And I've underlined it 3 times. Okay, board comment is next. Anything else anybody wanted to comment on?
Thank you for letting me hand out diplomas.
Oh, that was the sweetest thing. For those of you who were at graduation or not at graduation, Peggy got to hand her granddaughter, and it just worked out perfectly. We were going to make sure it worked out, but we didn't even have to. We were taking turns, and her granddaughter came up right to Peggy, and big hug and tears. It was a wonderful graduation, by the way, Shane. Thank you. And everybody else who was involved in it, wherever they are, but it really went well. So thanks. Okay. Reports to the board. Principals, who's up?
So this is gonna sound different because I think we each have a social emotional report, elementary, middle school, high school, but then we have one academic data report that we're all reporting out on, so.
Oh, and by the way, welcome, Jackie. Nice to have you sitting at the table. Lovely.
So Jackie, you and I can tag team this elementary, or I can just go through it. If you've seen our social emotional report before, it looks similar. A biggest celebration, the hugest celebration is our improved attendance. We have that sliver. Do you see that sliver of severe chronic? Let's all celebrate. That's one child across 2 campuses, right? And it's not even that severe, but it's the severe. So our kids are coming to school. They're coming to school a lot, and that helps. And I know in the last meeting was asked, what do we do differently? But I don't think there's one thing we did differently. We've done a lot of things differently. We've done a lot of education to parents, a lot of proactive education, a lot of conversations at the teacher level with families. And I would agree, also working with the local doctor's offices and mental health agencies helps as well. But it's a huge celebration for us.
Another big change as well is the verbiage change in some of our letters that we put out to families to make it seem more welcoming and more an open door conversation.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. As every one of these reports, it reviews the major behavior referrals when they happen over the course of the month, the days of the week, and the times of day. I don't know that I think that there's anything like glaring or crazy about any of it. There's always some months that are harder. I mean, October generally is harder. And Wednesdays and Thursdays tend to be harder days of the week. And times of day, it really depends on the schedule for the school year. We reported out on hazing, harassment, and bullying. Talked about our targeted supports. We talked about specifically how many kids were on academic plans, social emotional plans, IEPs and 504s, and how many of them exited those plans. I think the biggest section that, for me, I'd like to draw your attention to is that what we did new this school year, both campuses, both school counselors conducted a needs assessment for all of our WRUDB students, which really talked about students' protective factors, and our school counselors did a nice job of really creating some amazing data based on student reports and targeting those students. Like, these are kids that need to have some extra support from the school counselor around these protective factors. And they did this survey at the beginning of the year, end of the year, and really saw some meaningful shifts with kids. So we felt like that made a big difference. Part of that survey also was asking kids what their career was, and over in Bethel, Sage put on a wonderful career day that was really well received by the kids. She targeted the careers that the kids wanted, and so we had kids milking fake cows, what you do inside of a classroom, and we had a veterinarian come to school, and lots of wonderful people who dedicated their time and donated their time to come in, so that was wonderful. And then I would just say, looking ahead, Jackie and I next week are going to BEST with teams of teachers. There will be lots of planning at that conference. I know we've talked about that conference in the past. Lots of new learning for us as well, which we're always excited about. And looking into the next year, we're going to shift to a focus on student leadership with our 5th graders and having them do some mentoring, some ambassadorship as our middle school partners are doing. And we also are gonna work to try. I know, we all been talking about how trying to engage people is so hard, but we're gonna keep trying to engage some families in, joining us in advisory council for our social emotional, team. Which we tried once and we haven't got anyone to join yet, but we're gonna keep trying and we're gonna try to get some more parents to wanna come in and work with us side by side. All right, I just did a lot of work. Do you have anything I missed or wanna add?
It all sounds lovely.
All right,
Thank you.
yeah.
So shifting to the middle school in our SEL report, you have that in front of you. I'll point out a couple of highlights. One theme that might not jump out to you just based on the report is the kind of alignment that happens from the K to 12. Andrew just talked about this wonderful opportunity students had to explore careers. And what that grows to in middle school is identifying interests, finding those passions, start finding out what skills match to those. Through our Flexible Pathways program, we do a lot of career exploration. What that's evolving into is actually setting students on a pathway. If you want to be a game warden, if you want to be an engineer, how do we set that up so that the cohort that Shane and company here at the high school is already on that path and already gearing towards that? Just wanted to note that's the kind of alignment that you're going to see consistently in the next couple of years. Regarding our social emotional report, another reflection of alignment is we were all lockstep and laser focused on how we address attendance. We finished the year in the middle school with an average of 94-point-something%, just a tick under 95%. We actually had days for the first time in my nearly 30 years in public education where we had every single student present. I want to talk to a piece that's not directly in the report, and it's about people who are not here. The Waterman campus came up earlier on the SU board, and I want to point out that there are a couple of significant cases on that campus, which they're still my students who had not meaningfully been in school for 2 years. That program has re-engaged them. One of the reasons why our chronic absentee rates fell is because we have found ways to get students to show up on campus, Waterman or ours. Talking about students that have missed more than 80 days of school in a school year, now missing a handful and have career paths walking out of that campus. They can answer the question, what are you thinking of doing with your life? What are you thinking of doing for a career? That's pretty meaningful. It took a lot of effort. It took a lot of meaningful conversation that ended with action steps and working with our community partners. That's the biggest highlight out of this SEL report. I do want to brag for a moment. How we approach discipline is always a system that can be improved. In the 3 years I've been here, we've dropped from 400 major referrals in a year to this year we had a tick over, we had 98 this year, just under 100. Our goal is to reduce from year to year by 20%. We are well on the way at an almost 10% reduction from last year. I've spoken to you at different times in our meetings about what we chose to focus on, how we chose to respond. I like the phrase moving upstream of a problem. So treating minor physical altercations like a serious one. You don't take someone's hat off their head. You don't shove someone into a locker. In treating those with a higher level of seriousness, we greatly reduced the downstream kinds of assaults. I use that word intentionally. You see 4 listed here. That's a really small number. That's a label that gets put to any fist or foot striking someone else. If you look at our data, again, something I reported out in the past, our next focus, the next thing to continue working on is classroom disruptions. Things that are interrupting that learning environment, either disrespect to the teacher, disruption, whatever that may be, that will be a main focus for next year. And in that sense, we're again learning from our partners in the elementary school who are very meaningful and intentional about how they practice expectations. You can see artifacts all around the elementary school of, in this space, here are the expectations, and we're bringing back that flavor in the middle school. That's something we're going to be addressing over the summer. We're going from the one small poster that you might see in every room to space expectations. Maintaining some of those structures because we want to support our incoming 6th graders. Another thing I would like to point out is in talking with my colleagues and getting advice from my superintendent. This year we used out-of-school suspension far less than we had in the past. We turned to an in-school suspension that was directly outside of my office, and that student was doing work. We heard families give us feedback that out-of-school suspensions can be a reward for some students. It removes the expectation, and it fell into that, or fed into the function of a behavior presenting to get out of a work expectation. But we keep them in school far more, and that expectation doesn't leave. The work is provided. We work with teachers to do something more than an emergency sub-plan level of work, like read a magazine or reflect. Now it's directly supporting, you've got an assessment, all right, we're sitting with you and taking it, and helping you, accommodating whatever we need to do. We're working through this. It's also helped bolster the restorative conversation that happens after that behavior. So I think we'll continue to see benefits from that. Those are the highlights of my SEL report.
Any questions?
Thank you.
No, just comment.
Sure.
From reading through, I noticed like that theme of even in like a punishment setting, the school's been keeping that student engaged and really focusing on that, and I really appreciate and applaud that. I think that helps them understand the education's not like, it's not removing them and allowing them to duck the work, and keeps them engaged.
That's important for us.
It's really important, yeah.
And it's acknowledging, again, behaviors, communication, and one thing we can't let you out of is the responsibility of the task. We've had a lot of, for example, if you're sent out of a class in the morning, the way you make up that time isn't having the restorative conversation necessarily with the teacher. That's an important part. But your lunch detention is working on that assignment you missed. We've set up systems whereby we could take a break duty from a teacher instead of going to lunch duty. They sit with the student so they don't lose their duty-free lunch. That student is responsible for the task, and there's that repair relationship right there. It was important to us. You said you had a question?
I just didn't know what school conduct violation meant versus some of this other stuff. I'd never noticed that before, but what is an example of a school conduct violation?
School conduct violation is a much wider umbrella. It's when we've gone to the handbook and said, okay, so this is where you crossed the line. This is where you went beyond. I'm struggling with an exact concrete example.
Would that be like graffiti or like things like that? Or would that be like disorderly conduct might be graffiti?
This is BS. You didn't swear at someone,
okay.
It's not a suspendable offense, but you disrupted the learning environment, you didn't follow the code of conduct that we hold by, where you're responsible for your words. That's an example, maybe not.
Yeah, that's, thank you, got it.
A conduct violation, often those have natural consequences attached. Let's say Abe threw his drink at me in the cafeteria. He would have the opportunity to do some work in the cafeteria cleaning up. Things like that.
Okay.
But you can also see that heading, we use that phraseology often in looking at HHB investigations. Does this violate our code of conduct or our school policy? Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, Pierre.
Thank you.
So for the high school, you have the academic and the social emotional reports. Happy to answer any questions that you have. There are a few things that I do want to highlight. Last month I talked about, previewed our school climate survey. So you have that data with all the various subset scales in there. And, you know, I shared that cultural acceptance was an area of focus and importance for us as a school as we go into summer planning, looking at our advisory and into next school year. And that will certainly get a lot of attention. I want to share a story that just took place this week as we were interviewing for open positions, and we were asked about what is the climate like in this school. And we have a student that was on the interview committee with us, and she took the time to answer it and spoke at length about the positive steps and trajectory that she's seen in her time here. And she was here as an elementary student, went over to the middle school, and now is just finished up her second year here in the high school. And she was so clearly able to articulate our kind of some of the main themes of our social emotional learning curriculum, school-wide standards and expectations, and really what it means to be a Wildcat, what our green standards are, and what it means to be green, build green, which is kind of a motto that we use around school culture. And it really, I think, speaks to the engagement and the understanding that our students have when they're able to articulate back so well, kind of on the spot to an outsider that they're unfamiliar with. It just was a real point of pride for me as we're wrapping up the year and kind of going through all these things. So, you know, we still have work to do, but I'm confident that we are moving in the right direction in those pursuits. Coinciding with that, when I did the SEL report in the fall, our behavior data had increased from the previous 6-month period that we were comparing to. And that was a tough pill to swallow, being a new principal coming in. But in the second half of the year, the tides have flipped the other direction, and we actually see reductions in behavior from the same period last school year. And so, you know, while there may have been a bit of a reset at the start of the year around some expectations and things like that, the students and staff have really settled in, kind of understand, have clear expectations and guidelines, and the data shows that we're moving in the right direction there as well. You know, I remember last year being principal in this position, talking to this report and speaking specifically about our hazing, harassment, and bullying numbers, which at the time I was bragging about as being very low, having had some conversations with folks from other schools and knowing that our numbers were much lower than theirs. And I'm just really astonished to see even further drops in particularly the HHB substantiations. So those are the investigations that we open up, and then the outcome, the determination is that in fact bullying, harassment, or hazing did take place. So we see a dramatic drop in those percentages there. And overall, just the fact that there was only 15 HHB referrals that came through this year, I think speaks to the climate and culture within the school community. We spent a lot of time talking about attendance tonight, both at the full board and already here. Two things that I want to point out that I don't think have been shared yet or kind of focused on. And one, we are in the second year of having a home to school coordinator, and that was a new position that was funded locally by this board, implemented last year, really to target those students who meet the definition of chronic absenteeism. And so we're starting to see some of those efforts play out. And new this year, targeting students with chronic absenteeism was a therapeutic horseback riding group that took place, both with the intention to have some positive engagement for these students, but build a little bit of community within a small cohort, and hope to transfer you know, those small wins to better student engagement. And we saw real success in that program. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention as well.
And that program is also going to go through the summer. So they're carrying it through the summer, and hopefully they'll be able to find funds through a grant to also continue it through next year. Should be wonderful.
And I guess the last thing, I want to add one more thing. You know, we wrapped up the first year of having the adult diploma program, so this was kind of a pilot year for us. And we have just seen tremendous individual success stories through that program. truly being able to individualize and meet the needs, specific needs of some students, and help them find success both academically and in the workforce. So to see these students kind of present their final capstones, to get their pass and get their LA licenses or different child care certifications and are going on to college themselves to further their education, I think speaks to the power of that. And we will be doing that's something that I plan on showcasing for a board meeting in the fall, so that you guys can have some really in-depth time kind of understanding and learning more about that program with Errol Hidden, who's the program director for that.
Great. Any questions for Shane?
Not a question, but in general, the attendance in all buildings, that's really impressive to have that increased attendance. Awesome. Yeah.
I have a question about this chronic absenteeism. Why is this such an issue all of a sudden? I never heard anything about this in years past.
Well, it's been a national trend really since COVID. I think we started to see absenteeism rates increase a little bit before COVID, but once the pandemic hit and all those measures that we went through, the disruption in learning, transitioning to virtual learning, increased focus on staying home when you're sick, things like that. We've just seen nationally a huge increase in chronic absenteeism. So, and that is defined as missing 2 or more school days a month.
Yeah, and
But if kids really are sick and you're pushing them to stay home, does that have something
They get
to
an
do with
excused
it?
absence if they're really sick.
Excuse me?
If they're really sick, they get an excused absence.
for me, a
And you
fundamental.
have a way to differentiate that?
We try to, yeah, like this, if the school nurse sends them home, it's really clear.
But if they just call in, their parent calls in, you don't know for sure,
I think
right?
the nurse generally consults with the parent and tells them if they think they should go see a doctor or not, and, or coaches parents to consult with their doctors if they should be seen or not, and we go based on that.
So the conversation, the frame of it has really changed. We didn't use phrases like chronic absenteeism when I started 30 years ago. We used words like truancy. And the kinds of students and families we're targeting with support, we have conversations about why that student's absent. In the past, that was likely a student headed for incredibly high risk for dropout. Those are students that were missing 20, 50, 80, 100 days in a school year. They existed in my time. They were just treated differently. The fundamental change in chronic absenteeism as the focus is that conversation. There's a huge gray area of conversation. Why is your child home? They're staying home for a funeral. We have discretion. The long story short is it's a lot less about what's excused and unexcused and far more about, is there an obstacle we can remove for you to get your kid present? And that focus has benefited all students, but has really been targeted with a whole host of supports to get a family at the table, to have them access medical care, mental health care, whatever the need is. That's the fundamental change in the conversation. We just called it something different decades ago, and we looked at it as a family problem, as in, you're not getting your kid to school. Conversation is now, what can we help you do? What obstacles can we help you remove so that your kid is present? Because we know we can feed them, we can educate them, we can keep them safe and growing. That's how I've viewed it, because I've gotten on board.
Well, that makes sense, because kids have been out of school since we were kids. And I never heard it use that phrase, I guess. I'm mostly curious.
It's really putting on a different pair of glasses to look at the problem.
So it's really not any different than it has been.
How we talk about it is different. It's been mentioned tonight. We do everything humanly possible to remove any of the shame, any of the feeling of judgment, because it's not about that. It's about what can we bring to the table to help you get your child here.
Then we really can't blame it on COVID, can we?
COVID, in my experience, don't quote me on exact percentages, but it drove a lot of schools into the 40% of a school missing on any given day. That is a monumental task for a teacher to try and plan 5 days of lessons when you're missing 40%. That's not always the same 40%. COVID really changed the conversation. We're taking some of that back in that conversation. It's one more society's factor that changed how people view school and attendance.
I know it was a struggle for me and my kids.
Well,
And for me as well.
Virtual school with my two grandkids. Well, all three of them, only the one in high school didn't really need me. She was pretty much on her own. But we had no issues with the virtual schooling, and Jesus, we spent like 4 hours a day with school and we were done.
I mean, I can only speak what happened with my youngest granddaughter, in that one of the things she learned during COVID was it didn't matter. Because it was on computer and there wasn't follow-up, because it was new to everybody and there wasn't the follow-up, the follow-through or whatever.
Well,
So
maybe it depended on the teacher.
So she learned procrastination because it didn't matter. And I think that went across that whole first year that we were suffering with long distance learning. She still is a procrastinator. And prior to that, she was on top of things. Now she's on top of things, but she's always late doing it. But,
I loved it when I had my grandkids at home to school them.
And
we had a blast. We did field trips every day because we got done with our work so quickly.
yeah, and then we're getting over the culture during COVID. If you had a sniffle, you had to stay home. Don't come if you've got any symptoms at all.
Noses to get in the building.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Oh, yeah, it was
Welcome
terrible.
to school.
Stay
And
home because
that-
we weren't doing that.
That affected a whole bunch of people, and then after a couple of years, well, I'm sick, I'm not supposed to go to school, and blah, 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 and you had to go over that challenge, because part of that became ingrained. I'm not supposed to go because I've got a runny nose. And so that was also part of it became part of the culture that we've had to overcome that too. So COVID didn't help things. It didn't cause everything, but it certainly didn't help things.
Well, part of it was just the perception, in my opinion. Like they just went way overboard with it.
Well, I am going to call us back
Yep, sorry.
so we can get through the agenda. This has all been very interesting. Let's see, academic data report.
So we're happy to answer any questions. I think the summaries, I should have specified, those were K-8 summaries, the bullets for both math and literacy. I think our teachers are doing really good work, working hard, teaching our kids. My overall, way sweeping overall, is that we're doing amazing in math. And we have a goal of tightening down more in literacy. That's my oversweeping goal. Not that we didn't make progress or gains, but it's not the amount of gains we made in that. And I also recognize that our first year with a new program, it's not going to go smooth either. So I'm excited that we have more training tomorrow, and I think more embedded training throughout the school year with Katie Sparks, who's going to be working with us.
Okay.
I'd echo what Principal Bowen just said. I think two things are abundantly true. We had some areas, flashes of brilliance, specifically in mathematics. Our students made greater gains than I had expected. One of our CIP goals was specifically drilling down into a couple of skills that we had, in general, not done well on assessments in reporting out. So we focused on a couple of those foundational skills. We took a different approach in literacy, and we rolled out the EL curriculum. I think it's too early to tell what that overall impact is. I've seen how our teachers have adapted, how they found ways to put their own flavor in. And the conversation right now around the table, figuratively speaking, is just how expansive EL is. It's not just an English curriculum. It reflects some things that our schools do brilliantly already. but the overlap between that and our global citizen classes. And they're talking, diving deeply into books that have a lot to do with social justice, the human condition, finding your voice in democracy, like some really important things for citizenship. So I'm excited to see what it looks like next year. I'm proud of our students. We also changed testing conditions this year. We were a lot more mindful about what a student was transitioning from into testing or afterwards. We sacrificed, appropriate word, we sacrificed some content time to structure days of testing differently. I'm very curious to see what our VTCAP data looks like, the state testing down the road. I look forward to that report in a couple of months. Knock on wood.
Yeah, I echo Pierre. I really look forward to seeing what the CAP data shows us in the fall when that comes out. I think the Fastbridge data, the graphics look a little different. So I just want to point out the graphic to the left is really looking at the cross section of students in what percentile they fall in across the country. And the graphic to the right is about the rate of growth that they made throughout the year from fall to spring. So side by side, they look a little funny, and I just want to draw your attention to that.
Okay, any questions? Okay. Thank you, all of you. Okay, get on the right place here. So we are now at Policy Committee, and Dave is our Policy Committee guy. So we do not have Dave tonight.
Is this something we're supposed to vote on tonight?
No, it's not an action.
Because it said on Act 2 adopt.
Oh, Act to Adopt Policy B37, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one we reviewed.
That was the one that we've done 4 times now, the cell phone.
I would do it for,
Yeah.
just for review for.
These were, to review our second reading or a third reading of each of those policies. We did discuss it at the full board meeting. Abe, did you have anything you got out of that when we discussed it at the full board meeting?
For
The electronic communications between employees and students. We didn't really talk about it.
we were gonna talk about, I think this is our first full read on those.
Yeah.
So I reviewed them a little bit. I think Dave not here. We're tabling stuff for August on action. I know which one, I believe their VA to B35 was just like an amended one.
Yeah.
For the new state statute.
Yeah, so we will be voting on those at a later date. But policy adoption would be the B37, the use of cell phones, that we've read this 3 or 4 times now. Did anybody have any comments or questions about it? No. Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll move it.
Okay,
Second.
okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of adopting policy B37? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, it has been adopted. Okay, discussion items. Okay, this is Jamie's stuff. So we've lost Jamie for the moment. He gave updates to the full board earlier, and I don't think there was anything terribly new about that, other than the fact that it passed. which was fantastic. And this was the one that Jamie kind of thought that the governor probably isn't going to sign it, but he's not going to veto it either. Is that the one they were saying that
Yeah,
about?
it might pass without signature.
Yeah, yeah. If he doesn't sign it within X numbers of days, but he doesn't veto it either, it automatically takes effect. And thanks to Jamie and a couple of members of the full board who were up in Montpelier constantly the past few months lobbying for this, it came out pretty good for our favor anyways. So, and summer capital project updates. I think we need Jamie for that. Or do
I
you
mean,
got
I
it, Jane?
can share what's happened so far here. Last week, asbestos abatement was completed and the boilers were removed from the furnace. Installation of temporary electric hot water heaters so that we have hot water throughout the summer months. This week is primarily emptying out classrooms, the stage. You see a big container out front of the small elementary gym that is really for props, materials, and things that during the renovation. They will break ground Monday on the new secure entrance, as well as excavation and digging up tanks and all that is entailed in those projects. And they have a pretty tight timeline, but expect to be done around the 15th of August. And the only thing that we know is not going to be ready or here is the bleachers that will be in the new performance center. Those are custom built in Canada with a lengthy lead time. We expect them to be here end of October, early November, hopefully in time for the fall production.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, fiscal year, and Chris was going to be going over that with us, so we'll skip that for the moment. Hopefully he'll come back. Public comment? Any other public comment? Okay.
So just so that I understand, you guys are gonna vote whether or not to put it on the agenda for the budget next
Yes.
time?
Yes. Yeah. Okay, any new hires or resignations?
Our new hire, we are done hiring. We have a third grade teacher named Claudia Robu. And she's actually attending tomorrow's training. She's coming all ready before the school year even starts.
Nice.
The PL training. We're happy to have her.
Great.
Knock on wood, because I think we are set.
Really?
We have hired a math teacher. Okay, it's highly recommended. David Nagel will be joining our math seasoned educator. I advanced just yesterday a candidate for our activities director, Pete Cheney, and just today advanced a candidate for our ELA position. So as it stands right now, again, done all the reference checks, we have high hopes. Unfortunately, that ELA teacher will not be able to join us at the training tomorrow, but we are hopefully done our process on the last day of school.
Thank you, Pierre.
High school's in a similar position where I know Christina Alvarez has met with the superintendent, accepted the position formally, so she will be a new global studies teacher next year. And we have moved forward 3 names who are just waiting to meet with the superintendent and to fill our administrative assistant position, second global studies position, and student support coordinator. So as of now, I feel good about where we're at.
Great. Great. Thank you. That is a relief. Okay. We have an executive session.
Nancy, are we gonna vote on the tan?
We can't do it right now, I don't think, because wasn't there going to be a presentation for it first? And I think either Jamie or Chris needs to be here for that.
Okay.
He's coming back right now.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because that's usually pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Great, okay. You're just in time to talk to us about fiscal year
Save the
10.
best for last. That's how I like to look at it. Ooh, I've been on tour.
I bet. And it's so easy to get lost in this building.
We're not gonna mention that, Nancy.
I've wandered many an
All
hour.
you gotta do is look at my pedometer and be like, how would he do 8,000 steps in 20 minutes and why is he sweating? That's,
Yeah.
so I'm learning my way around. Tax anticipation note. Would you like me to do a full-on explanation, or are you folks, veterans enough that you've heard this rap every year and you just want me to get to it? I can do either. I'm happy to do either.
I've heard it.
I've heard it. I've heard
We can,
it.
I'll take it for that.
So just as you guys get to know me, I love to talk and I tend to over-explain because I never want one of you folks or anybody in the audience to leave not knowing what I was talking about or agreeing to something that you're not comfortable with.
Okay.
So my default is to over-explain, so that's why I'll always ask.
Okay, Sounds good.
So the tax anticipation note request for the FY27 school year is, you might have it in front of you, actually. I've been reading the numbers, but they're, if you
Yeah.
have it, you see it. So school districts borrow money in anticipation of taxes, because school districts are funded with primarily property taxes and ed fund payments. Ed fund payments come September, December, April, and your school taxes are, I'm not even really sure because I haven't been here long enough to know when Royalton and Bethel collect taxes. So to figure out how much a school district is gonna borrow, and in this case, White River Unified, I do a cash flow analysis and literally go month by month, July of 26 through June of 27, anticipated revenue at each month and anticipated expenses each month. And when you do that exercise at one particular day and time, usually it's December or January, there's a max accumulated potential deficit. It's not a school district deficit, it's a cash flow deficit. When you identify the cash flow deficit for the school year, you can borrow 1.5 times more than that, more or less. I'm sort of summarizing. It's a little more in depth than that, but you can generally borrow 1.5 times more than your highest accumulated deficit. So you can see the cash flow analysis said that at a certain point in the year, which is December of 26, White River is going to have a cash flow deficit of about $900,000, about. So I can borrow 1.5 times of that, which is 1.7 million, and we invest in this particular school year at 3.48%. I mean, we borrow at 3.48% and we invest at 3.88%. So we make a spread of 0.4%, which generally speaking, if we have a normal year, we don't run any deficits, there's no unanticipated costs, we should make anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000 in revenue.
Huh.
Yeah. So like I just explained to Sharon, like there could be a day and time in some year, depending on what's happening in society, where you borrow at more than you invest. There has been occasion, and our conversation would be vastly different. I wouldn't borrow 1.5 times because you'd be losing money.
Yeah.
But because the spread is in our favor,
Mhm.
I'm asking the board to approve to borrow 1.7 million, to invest at 3.88, borrow at 3.4, and we pay it back on June 30th, 2027.
Thank you.
Of
Any
course.
questions?
And this is where on your revenue budget, when you see interest income,
Yeah, that's
that's
where
where
it's
this
coming
is
from.
generated.
Okay, cool. Thanks, that was a very good explanation.
Nancy, I could go on.
No,
But I also
no.
know
I'm not encouraging you,
everyone's
Chris.
tired, I'm sweating because I handle heat terrible, but don't get me started. I love this stuff. So,
Okay,
so yeah, I'm asking the board to make the motion per the number on your memo.
okay,
Please.
can we have a motion?
I guess I'd move that we authorize doing a TAN for $1,741,172.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank
Wonderful.
you, Chris.
No, thank you all.
Okay, now we can go back to this. We skipped, I kind of skipped over the H955 updates, just said that you had done a great job and thank you and all of that. Do you have anything special you wanted to add?
Just that the board needs to think, and I'm gonna recommend that we take action in August to appoint a member to the merger study committee. Because they'll probably kick off meetings in September, or early October. I think you should expect at the most 2 meetings a month. I don't think it'll be that way every month, but I think there are going to be months that it might require 2 meetings. The good news is that we don't have negotiations this upcoming year. It's an off year for negotiations. So I think that we should be able to handle that. Lift, certainly Chris Locarno and I will be at those meetings to support you in the merger study conversation. You know, and so just know that they're requiring us to study unified union school districts that operate K-12. NRSU, we were the only K-12 operator. So right there, the likelihood of a successful merger when we're asking 5 of our member districts to no longer have choice is an uphill proposition.
Yeah.
On top of that, Echo Valley is also joining that merger study committee, and they are a K-8 and a non-operator 912. And then there is the Unified Union School District of Orange Southwest as part of that merger study committee. I think there is a likelihood that possibly a neighbor to our west might even petition to join us. So, and if you start to even look farther west than Granville, Hancock, around members in that merger study committee, again, the notion of it being a UUSD seems less likely. So we will go in good faith and participate. And then I think the big key is going to be that merger study committee talk with the facilitator to get a sense of whether the facilitator would support looking at possible mergers within a larger entity that's not a unified union, that possibly is a supervisory union, and issue a report that way. It doesn't say you can't do that in the legislation. It's going to be whether or not the facilitator thinks that's an okay idea, because they get to judge good faith around the district boards. And so, yeah, stay tuned. The first meeting will be, you know, prior to October 15th, and we'll go from there. Eric Lopez was appointed as the SU rep for the Cooperative Educational Service Area Board tonight. Eric is the vice chair of the Stratford School District Board and has been on the SU board now for a number of years and was on the policy committee too. I think he'll serve us well.
Well, that, can I ask a question about that? Is that mostly like talking budget, or is it talking everything in a school district, or is there not a secret?
So the Cooperative Educational Service Area's first order of business actually is to get a facilitator appointed to them and get these merger study committees off the ground. That's their number one order of business to begin with. And then it is to start looking at the 6 services that they are required to provide, not that we have to purchase, are business office and fiscal services, curriculum support and development, transportation coordination, facility management coordination, and the big one is special education services. And so, again, Eric will help set up that process. They'll hire an executive director. There will be an executive director for the CSAW. That then they will work to organize what does that look like, which boards are actually interested in purchasing them, because they're going to have to develop a budget. The good news was the legislation originally said we had to purchase those services. At that point, that then looks like a large SU, right? That is what the SU currently provides, are all those services. So it no longer says you have to purchase those. It says that you can choose which ones you may want to purchase and which ones you may not. Like example, we don't have a facility coordinator right now. So that is something that might be interesting for us to actually think about.
Any other questions?
Well, I just had a question. Are we still affected with Act 73 with over however many years we're supposed to have X number of students per class or minimum class size?
For minimum class sizes,
Yeah.
that got delayed 1 year, but yes, that is still in the law. We tried to get that language changed, that it would only take effect if the foundation formula
Mhm.
took effect. Actually, that is what the Senate did pass. That got caught in the conference of conferees. By caught, I mean, I think some folks missed that had been changed. That would have been great for us, because I don't think the foundation formula is gonna ever take effect, which means the minimum class sizes would have never taken effect, but the House did not like that language change. And so it resorted back to the House language, which is just a 1-year delay.
Mhm.
What we did get added though, which I think is really important for our high school, is that it now has language that says any targeted or specialized class no longer counts in the weight. And the example they gave were world language would be considered specialized. And so there's still rulemaking to take effect around all these definitions around the state board. So that's why they delayed the implementation for another year. So the definitions will be really important, but it was on the record as an example with the Conference of Conferees as world language, not as being specialized.
Mhm.
And of course, the AP.
They're already exempt.
Yeah.
Although I would say honors is specialized.
Yeah.
So where honors before we were told could not be exempt, I would argue now that honors could be exempt if you chose to have them exempt. So it did seem like they gave a lot more flexibility at the secondary level that will help us.
Any other questions?
Thanks for asking that, Peggy, because I have not mentioned that to any of the boards, so I need to make sure I update that.
If it's coming, we need to be prepared.
Yeah, no, just how it changed a little bit. Yeah.
Shane already gave us an update on the
Great.
capital projects, and we went over new hires and resignations. And so we are at the executive session.
And I think you just need me and the principals for that.
Okay. Can we have a motion to return to public session?
You got it.
Second?
Got it.
Okay, we're back. Any other business?
We're doing it.
Okay, I see no other business. Future agenda items. We've already talked about one future agenda item. Does anybody have anything else they wanted to see on the agenda next time? Okay. Next meeting date, we determined in the full board that the next wagon wheel would be August 25th. It's a Tuesday night. And it'll be another wagon wheel.
And it may be, I didn't mention this at the full board, if we have the school put together, it may be in Sharon.
Ah.
I would like to have the board come see, they're doing a big 7.4
I was
million
wondering about that,
addition, so-
if we are ever going to go anywhere other than
Yeah,
Bethel
so
and
if
Royalton.
that's done, I mentioned that to the Sharon board and they were excited about that idea. Now, it may not be.
Okay,
The timeline's tight, but stay tuned.
and yeah, if you know, we don't do a July meeting.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, okay, motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second?
Yes.
Okay, good night.